We conclude today chapter 41. Chapter 41 in one word, avodah, service. What is divine service? So, what does it mean truly to serve God? So we spoke about having an intent that not only are you doing it for your sake to cleave and to be bonded, connected to God, but for the sake of all the souls and the source of those souls, also to be connected. Not just for ourselves, even though the Alter Rebbe said that that might be very high-minded and only the righteous can truly serve on such a level, which is fair game. That that we're not going to be truly, doing a mitzvah, studying Tanya as we're doing right now, merely for the sake of the connection that it has to all of the Jewish souls and their root source above. But there is that notion. But the bottom line is that we have a hidden love in our soul. A hidden love in our soul. And that love, when it is revealed, it doesn't want to be disconnected from God and wants to be connected. The connection is the idea of love, and the disconnect is the idea of fear, of the fear of disconnection. Now, with this natural love that's hidden in the heart that wants to cleave to God, it wants to cleave under any circumstance, even at the cost of its very life. Something we've learned at length in chapters 18 and 19. Even at the cost of its life, it only wants to be connected, period. So when we don't want to die for God, we want to live for God. Meaning we're studying Tanya now, and we surrender ourselves totally to God. What does it mean to surrender yourself totally to God? In other words, there's no other thing that is being entertained in our heads right now, only the study of Tanya, or when you're praying. There's no other thing that is being entertained in you at that moment but your prayers. Or if you're doing an act of kindness to someone, so you're totally. What does it mean total? What does it mean total surrender? That I'm revealing the hidden love that I have in my soul. That all it wants is to be connected to God. And that's what is my motivation. That's my intent, is that connection. In other words, I'm not motivated by the reward. I'm not motivated by the experience. I'm not motivated that, this is going to get me to Gan Eden. That's not a proper intent. I'm motivated just by the fact, or I'm motivated, or I know motivated is the right word. I'm mindful of, and I'm of the fact that I'm giving myself, surrendering myself entirely over to God. Now, the Alter Rebbe takes this idea of surrender. In other words, I have a soul inside of me that is imprisoned, right? It's imprisoned. And I want to release it from its imprisonment. So the Alter Rebbe gives a metaphor that we've had previously, of the king has an only son who's in prison, and he releases himself or gets out of prison, and all he is happy about is what kind of pleasure that this will give to my father, the king. And he's not even thinking about his own release. Oh, I don't have to do that, job anymore. Oh, I don't have to have those masters over me anymore. That's not what is being entertained. Now, that would be entertained for sure if we allow our human side, which is based on our natural soul, to express itself, which it does. But then I didn't reveal, I didn't surrender, I didn't release my godly soul. If I'm releasing my godly soul from its imprisonment, surrendering it to God, then the godly soul, as the crown prince over here, the only son of the king, is totally focused on, oh, my father is going to be so happy. A nachas that I'm going to give him, a joy that I'm going to give to my father, the king. That's the intent that the Alter Rebbe is speaking about. Alter Rebbe says that this is not beyond us, because this is the true nature of our soul, of our godly soul, the divine soul that's in prison because it's enclosed in a body and an animal soul, and therefore all it needs is to be released from there. So if I'm mindful of this, as I'm studying Tanya right now, why? What's my thought process? What am I focused on? Of course, we got to be focused on the teachings, so we understand the teachings. That goes without saying. But before I start the teaching, what am I focused on? Today we put on tefillin for the first time since the holiday. What am I focused on? That I'm allowing my soul to be released from its imprisonment, that will not have a wonderful experience here, but will give great joy to God Almighty. That will give great joy to God Almighty. That's a surrender. Why was a surrender here? Because it's not about me. That's a real giving up something. You think about it. Without Tanya, it's all about me. Not in a good way, it could be. It doesn't have to be in a bad way, but it's all about me. It's all about either my reward or it's all about my experience. And here the Alter Rebbe is saying, no. The intent is to surrender the soul to God through the study of Torah, through prayer, through a mitzvah, and to elevate the spark of godliness and bring it back to its source as the crown prince comes back to the king. So we're taking and causing that gratification, not self-gratification, but gratification for God Almighty. This might seem beyond us, but it's not. That our intent could be solely to bring that gratification. And the Alter Rebbe says it's genuine. Even though you might think, whoa, that's a very lofty level. He says it's truly genuine because that's really the nature of our soul, of our divine soul. The only problem is the divine soul is in a body and invested in a body and a animal soul, and that, of course, can dictate the agenda, which naturally it does, unless we're learning Tanya, that we get the empowerment that we can rise above that. The thing that this idea of intent, in other words, this mindfulness, when do you have it? So if you're learning, let's say for hours, the Alter Rebbe says that maybe every hour on the hour you need to be mindful. Why? So he explains an interesting idea, and this will give us an interesting insight into what time is. Time is a creation of God. Not as some great physicist who passed away not, a year or so ago. Maybe a couple of years now, I don't know. Well known. who argued, and I saw the video of him making the argument, a British scientist. I'm sure everybody's familiar who this is. And arguing, did God create the world, not create the world? So the final argument was, well, if you go back in creation, there was a point that there was no time. There was no time. Well, so if there was no time, where did God have the time to create the world? He actually said that. Little children in Chabad know better than that. God created time. Not that there was time, and then where did God, no, he created time. Time is a divine energy of God that he brings a light into this world, whether it's a time period of a year, a month, a week, a day, an hour, a moment, a second, a moment, whatever. It's all of a divine energy, divine light that is brought into this world, that God animates and creates that reality for that moment, that minute, that hour. So interesting. How that be explained. Why every hour? Why not every moment you should have intent? I mean, to be mindful as opposed to, well, because you're studying and you need to focus on the studies. You need to understand what you're learning. Not every moment to think, oh, God, I'm doing this for you. God, I'm doing this for you. God, nothing's going to get into your head. You're not going to pray anything. You're not going to, no. I'm giving you gratification. So he explains. Did you ever wonder why there's 12 hours to the day? It makes sense. 12 versus 12. 12 is just a ridiculous number. Well, it's because God is the animator of the day. How's he animate it? With his name. Yud Ke Vav Ke. Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. 4 letters. But in the Hebrew language, a letter is not a word. You need minimum 2 letters to make a word. So you couple 4 times 3 equals 12. And that creates 12 hours of the day. Where's nighttime come from? From Yud Ke Vav Ke, we don't pronounce it, right? Like the J Witnesses, we don't say that name because it's pronouncing God's name. Not allowed to. So how do we pronounce it? We say it's the name Adonai. I didn't pronounce it properly because you only pronounce it in the prayer. Baruch Atah Adonai, right? Adonai is also 4 letters. It's the way we express the name Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. So you take there 4 times 3. That's how you get night. In other words, it's not the way it's written, it's the way it's expressed. So it's not, it's kind of camouflaged, which is night. Camouflaged, concealing the name of God in the way it's expressed because it's not being expressed the way it's written. And that's how you get 12 and 12 hours, right? Not always, summertime you have longer days that are more than 12 hours. We're talking about Jewish hours. Jewish hours are, take the day and divide it by 12. Take the night, divided by 12. Okay? So the Alter Rebbe says, well, since the first hour of the day, Yud and a Hey is animating it. The next hour of the day, it's Yud and a Vav that's animating it. And then the third hour, it's Yud and the last Hey, the final Hey that is animating. So each hour, there's a new life force that God is creating. That moment, that hour. What happened to the previous hour? Well, it went back up to its source. So what is time? Time is advance and retreat. Ratzoi v'shoiv. Advance of light into the world, retreat the light. But here's the thing. When you have proper intent in the mitzvah that you did that hour, that mitzvah is retreating together with that divine energy. The good that we do is eternal because it retreats back to its source above, your mitzvah that you did in that hour, because you didn't do it out of rote, you did it with a mindfulness that is expressing your divine soul, the hidden love that it has, that it merely wants to connect to God and not be disconnected from God. For what purpose? To give ultimately gratification to God. Not for its own self-indulgence, not for its reward, but for the connection. And that connection gives God great gratification. So that's time. And every hour, we're learning now. So at the end of this hour, our mitzvah of study will go up. Unbelievable. So first of all, now we have an explanation of time. Ask anybody, can you define time? No one can define time. They can only tell you an expression of time. They can only tell you a description of time. Movement from point A to point B, right? But that's not defining time. That is a way that you can measure time, but it's not defining time. Well, defining time is advance, retreat. Whether it's an advance for the year, a light that comes every Rosh Hashanah and retreats at the end of the year, whether it's every month because there's something unique about every single month, or whether it's the week, 7 days, the 7 emotions, or whether it's Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, every hour on the hour, a new divine energy is introduced into the world. And the last divine energy that was in the world is retreating after its advance, but it's not going back the same. It's going back with the good we do. The evil is dispersed, doesn't have longevity. It's not real because it doesn't go above. It doesn't go back to its source above, but only the good that we do. What is that good? Of course, Torah and mitzvahs. That's the only good that there is. But it needs the power of my intention to have the wings to make it ascend upwards. Alter Rebbe concludes this amazing thought. If we think into it, a lot here, saying, you know what, that's not enough. Because this is all only revealing the hidden love that and an attachment that our soul has naturally inside of us, right? That was bequeathed to us by the patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But that's not enough because we don't own that. It's bequeathed to us. We need to also think about the greatness of God, meditate about God, that something will get that will create a feeling that I have ownership over, that I have created, not because of the inherent love that I have, but because of the conscious awareness that I have in my mind that will feed, at least have a understanding heart or an intellectual love, because I guess a real palpable love may not be real for us, at this point at least. That's how he concludes. So we should have that too. All right. How was your last days of Pesach? Mashiach Suda. I want to tell you that last night we had a 2-hour Fabringen online. Some of you joined. Please make comments here so others could appreciate. And it was really nice. It was really nice. At least I enjoyed it. And hopefully gave great gratification to God Almighty. Okay. Migs. All right. Andrew from Springfield, New Jersey, good morning. And Mark from Santa Rosa, thank you for joining. Robert from Boston. Serach from Goshen, New York, Tim from Texas, Lori. Shabbos must be coming very soon in Beersheba, in Israel. Thank you for joining. Amy from Costa Rica. Amy? Or is that Annie? Oh boy. Sometimes the light is too bright. Annie, yes. Jotham from Brazil. Thank you for joining today and last night. Sigalit. Oh, and a wonderful Michelle Suda. That's great. From New York, thank you for joining. Jason, I hope your father's doing better. Folks, I want to thank you for the prayers for my granddaughter leaving the hospital today. Thank you for your prayers and good thoughts. Irene, thank you for joining. Fabius, Boker Tov. Zelia, Shalom, Erica from Norway. Thank you for joining. Stephanie from Illinois. Tony from Costa Rica. Osnat, Shalom. Una, Denise. Oh, thank you for joining with us last night. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. Good morning, and Barry, or Beryl, sorry, and Linda from New York. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Heather. Last night was a Fabringen, not a class. I hope that's the way it came across. Deanna, thank you. Bishop, blessings. Esther. Okay. Cyril from Florida, or Cindy from Florida. Larry. All right, folks. Justin from London. All right, wonderful. Sharing is caring. Please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have a wonderful Erev Shabbos, a wonderful, good Shabbos to everybody. This is Shabbos Mevorchim. We say Tehillim. It's Shabbos of livelihood, which we need. Shlisl Chala, and Allah Gute Zachen. Thank you for joining.